In this tip, I just want to give you some ideas of how to use the Yahtzee game. Again, there's a couple ideas in here that are not obvious at first thought, and so I want to give you some hints. Now, maybe there's some other ways to do it too, but here's how I like to do it. The Yahtzee game, as defined in our game, is rolling. Well, first of all, it says create a function that roll a six-sided die, and then call that function three times. Because if you think about it, what this is doing is we have to do something three times, roll a dice three times. And instead of doing that like three times where you make three different rolls, it makes more sense to do it kind of self contained. Or what I mean is like use a function that does the same thing over and over again. So instead of just immediately starting to go to your random number and making numbers, what you do is you just go like this and you do three of them. Now you're probably going to want to store those results, so you want to set them up into variables. The word roll is starting to look funny to me after typing it that many times. And then down here you could just be like, if all three are equal, then Yahtzee. So, you could think about how you write that if statement to do that. But all you do up here then is, so that's all this function is hey, I need three rolls, and if those three are equal, then I know I win the game. And so that's not hard. And that's the cool thing about functions is that you can break it down into kind of pieces and think about each piece one at a time and say, oh, I can handle this piece. That's not that hard to do. Now you think, now how do I roll a dice? Now I got to figure that out. But you can kind of shut your mind off of this part because you know it's going to work, and you can focus on the dice rolling part. So let's think about how to do this. Basically, oops, if you saw the video on how to make random numbers, you can do that. Make a random number from 1 to 6 because it's, six things. And of course, we could just say return that random number. That doesn't make any sense here, you know. You'd have to think about how to do that. But instead of return, we do want to return the random number, but we also want to roll an actual die. And that's just where this is kind of just for fun. But if that random number is a 1, then you just want to go ahead here and print what you need to do to print that dice. Well, it's not a dice, it's a die with a 1 on it. And, if it's a 2, what do you do to print it with a 2 on it and a 3 on it and all the way down to 6? And then you send it back the random number because that's what is important for this part of it. It needs to know what the random number was, so that's why the return is in there. And then this part is just the printing part, which is, less important, but it does mean that you now have a nice function that can print something and you can do it as many times as you want, right? So once you do it and you have it in there, then you can sit here and you can add dice all day if you want and just keep rolling them because you have a function that can do it for you. And that is the basics of how to create that function.